so welcome back to the channel. I'm doing a bit of an update on the 911 today. As you can probably tell by the thumbnail, I haven't worked on the 911 for an awfully long time. I've spent most of my spare time working on the Land Rover, and that's working really well now. Apart from the brakes, still got to look at those for a little bit. But no, it's really time to start making progress on the Porsche because it's been off the road now for almost 2 years. So I was over in England this weekend and I met with a friend of mine who owns a very nice C4S. He's a very good friend of mine. I actually helped him buy the car and he's looked after that perfectly, and it's a beautiful car, and we've always had it planned to go on a road trip down through Switzerland, well, down through France and Switzerland, to stay in Switzerland in the mountains and then come back, which sounds absolutely fantastic. And we actually had it planned for a couple of years ago, but when COVID hit, it suddenly all became not possible to do. So, having spoken with him over the weekend, he's given me a really big boost to try and get this thing done, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So the next step is on the car to repair these hydraulic lines for the power steering, and I found a place near Dresden who will do it for me, and I actually spoke to them months ago, but have never really found the opportunity to go out there and get them to have a look at it. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing all the parts along that I've got the lines, and we'll see how we get on. So I'll give you an update either when I'm there or just after I've left. Okay guys, so I've just got back from the hydraulic shop and it's about a 20-minute drive there, and I must have been there for about 2 hours, I think. They took a good lot of time with me to try and sort this issue out that I've got. It's not really straightforward with these high and low pressure lines from Porsche, because like most things on the car, they've been very specifically tailored to fit that car precisely. So essentially the low pressure line, which is this 12mm line here, don't know if you can see that close to the camera, you can see I've got a new hose, new fittings, clamped, pressed on one end, but left open on the other. And the reason for that is because when I come to fit them to the car, if I crimp them both, then I won't be able to turn that. So what we said we'd do is I'd leave this one undone, come back, fit the power steering rack to the car, fit these lines to the car, and then mark off where that's in line with the rack, and then we can go and crimp it later on. So I've got to actually go back there. So that was the low pressure line. The high pressure line was slightly more tricky. What was the reason for that? The reason for that is we couldn't really, using the fittings that were originally on there, find the right hose to fit those fittings. And in trying to fit the fitting to a hose, it's a bit difficult to explain, but the junction on here, the brass junction on the end of this, started to turn on the black pipe. So, which means it makes it, it'll just leak after that. So essentially what we did, we had to cut off the original fitting from the hard line and make up our own one. So essentially what we've got, let me see if I can show you this. Yeah, so this is the piece that I've had made up by a colleague of mine. I got these pieces, which are original Porsche pieces direct from Voss. Let me see if I can actually focus this thing. Which was really good. They don't make them anymore, but I got the last 4 in existence. So I've got 2 spare, where the larger and the shorter one. But this is what I'm talking about. So this is the section that we've made up, and essentially I can pull this off because we haven't actually crimped it down yet. And the reason for that is exactly the same as the other one, because we had to make up a fitting. We weren't sure how that matched up to the original size or length of that hose. So what we've done is left it all undone. I'll offer it all up to the car, and then see if it actually fits. And if it does, then obviously we'll straighten up that end there and take it back to the shop and have that crimped in place. But obviously this is quite a large fitting, so I need to check whether that fits on the car. So what that means is, as I mentioned before, fitting the steering rack to the car, fitting the power lines to the car, and then do a test fit essentially. So that's what I've got to do next. We're actually reusing this hose because we checked it and it's in pretty good condition, which is great because it means we don't have to mess about with this fitting here. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do next is I'm going to pop on some gloves. I haven't actually got my work clothes on today, but it's not too messy, so I'm going to pop on some gloves and I'm going to fit these power steering lines. Essentially, they connect here, the fittings are in place. Oh wait, are they? Oh no, they're not. I'll have to put them in. One here. And where's the other one? One here. Oh, maybe they go around here. Oh yeah, maybe they go around here, this side. And up through here, and then up, out that way. And this is my concern when they have to pass through here, if that huge bulbous fitting that I've created here will actually fit up in here. I hope it will. Okay, so after a lot of kerfuffle, I must admit, I managed to get those power steering lines in. Basically what I've done is I've put them into the bracket here and then screwed them in carefully, and they run all the way along, up around here, behind the water pipes. I've got to put that bracket in yet. Up over here with my newly made bracket, as you remember, and then up over to this bracket here, which I've also made new, which you can't really see very well. But yeah, that's where we're at. So essentially, I can already see that I think this line is too long because it's pushing it down. So I need to bring that down a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I wanted to offer the steering rack up, but I can't do that before I put the subframe on. So I'm now going to put the subframe on. Subframe is in. Is a bit premature because the fuel tank isn't in. However, it is in, which is very cool. See my newly finished bolts there? Look really good against the green. But that will allow me now to put the steering rack in and then to see whether these power steering lines actually fit in. So that's the next step. Okay, so I found the bolts for the power steering rack, which are in the same box as the power steering rack itself. Very helpful. And that is the power steering rack, or the steering rack I should say, which is very cool. So now what I've got to do is just check to see how, excuse me, these lines go into there. Okay, so I've got both lines into the rack and they fit, but what they do is they push too far outwards. So if you can see what I mean, they're pushing beyond the fitting, which is here, and against the water pipe. So that's got nothing to do with the length of this line here, which is too long, I can see. It's got to do with the fittings. So the guy who pressed the fittings for me, who meant well, who really wanted to help, but what's happened is there's basically a lip towards the end of these fittings, and he hasn't pushed the pipe in far enough, essentially. And what that means is, yeah, it just kicks out a little bit on both pipes and doesn't allow it to fit. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take them off and do them again in a different way, because also what he's done, he's crimped them right on the seals. Basically there's two rubber seals on the inside here of these fittings, and he's crimped them right on it. So what that means, you're supposed to crimp them here, and he's crimped them in the middle. So what that means is it just squashes the rubber seals, which means they're going to be open at some point because it's squashed them square, which is frustrating as hell, because we did go through it in great detail, and I drew him pictures and everything. But you know, I guess he's just really busy and wanted to help and just did it quickly, and it's gone wrong. So I'm going to have to do those again. But luckily I do have another set, the very last set from Voss. And I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to ask the guys who crimped these lines for me, the power lines from today, to see if they can crimp them. But it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because it is one step forward and two steps back, essentially. But that's what this project is. It's quite complicated. And if I don't want to buy everything new, which in this case I can't because they're not producing them anymore, then you just have to work your way around it. So a little bit of progress, but a bit of regress. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm going to pack up and I'm going to come back another day. So I'll see you later.